Frank van Klingeren. So he was, unlike Herman Hahn, a real outsider in the Dutch architecture scene of the 1960s and 70s. Trained as a construction engineer, he was a self-taught architect that kept away from architecture gatherings or cliques. He was more at home among people from avant-garde theater of the period than among forum architects like Aldo van Eyck, Bakema, and Herzberger, although he shared a lot of his ideas with the latter. They even received the Fritz Schumacher Prize in 1974 together. Herzberger for his central Becher office in Apeldoorn, and van Klingeren for, you read it, in Eindhoven. Both buildings celebrating multifunctionality and an openness towards change. I like this, openness towards change, as the motto of the art, architecture, and design biennial in Vienna was, change was our only chance. Although Frank van Klingeren was quite productive as an architect from the late 50s to the mid-70s, his main claim to fame was established with the design of 3 consecutive multicultural community buildings, or agora, as he called them. And you read the names there, so 3 of them. But his media presence was broader than that. Especially after finishing the Merpal, he evolved towards a counterculture societal critic and television personality, while keeping his distance from direct involvement in flower power, hippie or provo movements. He was in that sense a provocateur in a business suit. Now, this is that building that we just read about, multifunctional building, with an open plan, where all kinds of activities took place in a very democratic and non-hierarchical way. And here it is. And I like very much the spirit of what I see here. Some people doing theater somewhere, some people here playing volleyball, other people here sitting on chairs and maybe eating and talking or whatever. All kinds of activities taking place in a unique space. There is some anarchy here, but I like the openness of the idea and the openness of the possibilities that such a hybrid activity would allow. Oh, you have a market, you have people eating, you have, and at different times during the day, different activities take place under the roof of this, architectural umbrella, if we are to call it so. But I think it expresses well the spirit of the Dutch society, open to experiments, this openness, the same openness that Walter Gropius referred to when he said, the mind is at its best when it is like an umbrella, which works best when it is open. And indeed, if it rains, the relevance of an umbrella is when it is open. And maybe, an open mind should be open all the time, as if it is raining all the time. Now, another agora in a model, while construction work for the first one that we saw was still going on, van Klingeren was commissioned to design a similar multifunctional building for Lelystad, the second new town to be built in Flevoland and planned to become the largest city and capital of the new Polder province. The first design elaborated further on the open concept and mix of functions of the first one we saw. In this case, however, the scale was larger, and van Klingeren managed to lure in the churches, 3 different denominations into the collective. I love this. He managed to, to invite 3 churches of different denominations into this new enterprise he initiated. Although each church would have its own space. It was to be open like the open air theater, and as Van Klingeren argued, since these spaces would only be used on Sundays, they could double as extra theater and meeting spaces for the rest of the week. Nice. Meanwhile, it was decided that not Lelystad, but a newer town, Almere, to be built closer to Amsterdam, would be more important and bigger, and construction of Lelystad was delayed. This meant that the scale and budget of Van Klingeren's Lelystad Agora diminished too. Instead, Van Klingeren proposed the opposite, to enlarge the program with shops and housing facilities, hotel, boarding house, but to do this within the limited budget. To do more with less was one of his favorite slogans. I am totally on his side. To do more with less, and not to do less with more. He proposed a U-shaped steel post and beam structure of 3 stories to be left open and to be so-called colonized over time by the people and by entrepreneurs. The ground floor would still be the Marpal, the first one we saw, but a swimming pool was added to the programmatic mix. This open ground floor would be connected to the adjoining park, so much so that Van Klingeren started to title the different zones in the layout as if they were landscapes: theater landscape, youth cave, swimming and undressing landscape, etc. All in an open, wall-less setting. While the Marpol could be called urbanism, realized with architectural means, this last design for Lelystad would have been a landscape design, instead growing over time. The proposal proved to be too radical for Lelystad, and the toned down conventional agora was built in the city center by one of Van Klingeren former employees. And this is in Eindhoven from 1970. Estate centers are now really beginning to appear with a single flexible structure. They combine all the facilities required by a community, from schools to health centers, libraries, gymnasiums, restaurants, supermarkets, and banks, all within pedestrian distance from homes. This example, which is new even for Holland, meaning the Netherlands, belongs to Herzenbrücken estate, recently built to the east of Eindhoven. It has 1,700 apartments for some 7,000 inhabitants, almost of whom are young couples. This estate center, and we are going to see images, it's called like this, occupies a slightly higher and undulating site on the edge of the estate, surrounded by a green belt. It has a ground floor on 3 gently staggered levels and basement floor. The structure is formed by 37 large square self-bearing canopies in steel and glass, with shafts spaced at intervals of 14.40 meters. In the daytime, the interior is lit by the sun through the glass roofing, and in the evening by a system fitted into the framework of the canopies themselves, together with a heating system. Ventilation is effected by openings in the pitched roofing, which allow fresh air to enter, and by means of aspirators housed in the top of canopies. Estate dwellers will find everything they need here without having to waste time going for miles in different directions every day. Things like shopping, taking the children to school, or going to the doctor can all be done under the same roof. Parents going shopping can see their children attending lessons, and this makes school more natural and spontaneous, just as the covered piazza in the middle of the center, used for games, concerts, and meetings, is also natural. Designed at the same time as the estate, with a consultancy of sociologists, doctors, and teachers, this center was ready for its users, for the estate inhabitants when they moved in. However, they have taken to it with a natural and enterprising spirit. The center really works. the architecture, which is simply a system of roofing, sorry, the two O's are necessary, is at the same time an identifying sign and landmark. And here it is, what he built, and again, it works. It works, this openness of the spirit and the openness of society. He essentially did just this, modular roofing system, which he assembled 37 times. I don't know why 37 and not 36. Anyway, 37 apparently. And underneath, all kinds of activities happen. Someone sells clothes there, maybe second-hand clothes. Children study, take classes. Not far away, parents go shopping for food or whatever, all underneath this this canopy. I truly admire the spirit of the Netherlands. It's very, very open and experimental. There is a freshness here, which I think should be acknowledged and admired. And architecturally, also, I think is not just acceptable. It has elegance and it works structurally, and thus is an expression of a societal reality, an adequate expression. I like it. Frank van Klingeren, an engineer and self-taught architect. This is interesting about the Dutch. They are known as being very pragmatic, but exactly when they are very pragmatic, they also become poetical. So this interesting, transformation or metamorphosis between pragmatism and poesis is, I would say, an invitation towards optimism. These very pragmatic people actually do experiments which are almost poetical in spirit. And look, while the parents do shopping, the children, take courses in something. They learn something. So the school is part of is underneath the same canopy. In this section appears to be very rigid, but the reality of the space and of the activities that happen there is different. So a drawing bidimensional as it is could be misleading. You see all kinds of activities take place underneath this modular structure. To an extent, it even looks somehow futuristic, but it was that spirit of the late 60s, the beginning of the 70s, where, I don't know, people still believe they can change the world. It's easy to understand that children who are, taught in such an environment, they become themselves very open. Because the architecture, that this is not the enclosed classroom, with equidistant tables and stiff atmosphere, is an open space, and they become open-minded because they grew up in an open space. So as we see from the plan, you know, that the longitudinal section is actually not telling the story adequately, because in plan there is some movement, there is some dynamic you know, atmosphere here, which that section didn't you know, anticipate. Now I don't know what is this during the construction or but even like this, I think the architecture is freshly asserting itself as an open space of possibilities. Frank van Klingeren. I guess this is how it looks like now. So I guess, you know, Centre Georges Pompidou in Paris was not so different in spirit from what we look at here, except that this is not in the center of Paris and it's not a vertical building, it's a horizontal building. But the spirit or the ideology of the building, if we can call it so, is not very different from what Renzo Piano and Sir Richard Rogers proposed and built. Although there was another architect who, unfortunately, I forgot his name, an Italian architect who collaborated with them, and then, of course, the great engineer Peter Rice, who died young, unfortunately.